The Hogsty presents It's Just Business with Steve Thomas and Rich Rogers. And now, here's your host, Chris Larry. And we're back with a new episode of The Hogsty presents It's Just Business, where we talk about the dollars and the cents of the sports business world. This week we talk a little ESPN, some guaranteed contracts, and a lot more. I am obviously not Chris Larry. I am, however, Steve Thomas filling in for Chris Larry because he has the unmitigated gall to take a vacation this week, clearly showing he doesn't care about us. So in his place, we have none other than Alex Zeese from the Hogsty. How are you, Alex?
Well, I have nothing better to do on a Monday night, so here I am.
You have nothing better to do, and so you can join us.
Yep.
Well, fortunately, Rich is with us, and he apparently doesn't have anything better to do on a Monday either. How are you, Rich?
I'm doing great. Nah, nothing better to do this Monday, but the next time we record, I'll be in Bermuda. So,
nice.
So let's make the most of this one.
Rich is a traveling man, you see. He's been on the beach. He's been in another beach. The bottom line is, unless you are recording from Bermuda, you are not dedicated to the show.
Right, well.
I don't know
Sorry,
if they
guys.
have good enough internet in Bermuda for that.
Yeah, we may not be able to get bandwidth.
Hamilton, Bermuda's a little. It's coming up. We'll see.
Yeah.
Hamilton, Bermuda. I don't know, man. It's a lot of bandwidth. We'll see.
Yes.
Certainly have fun in Bermuda, though. That's good.
Thank you.
I guess, Rich, you are an educator, so you are spending your summer wisely, would be my guess.
Yes, have to.
Yeah.
My last gasp.
Yeah, my mom's goes back next week, actually, so I know how it is.
Yeah. Yep.
Well, yeah, I was just talking off the air. I've been at youth baseball tournaments all summer, so no vacation. Yeah. Been in a lot of places, though.
Yeah.
It's been in a bunch of the series of baseball fields. We do have a lot of good stuff this week. We are going to talk about something I've been wanting to talk about for about a month now. Actually, we're going to talk about ESPN, their business model, and hopefully give you a little bit of insight about what really is going on with the worldwide leader. We're going to talk a little bit about NFL guaranteed contracts and so a lot more. But let's start with the ESPN article. And where we got this is from Street and Smith's Sports Business Journal, which is a great thing. It's called "Taking the Pulse of ESPN," and the genesis of this is that ESPN sort of famously has been in the news for a loss of subscribers. They've had a bunch of layoffs, and the article really goes into some detail about just the staggering amount of money that they have spent, which is probably leading to the layoffs. So the kind of where I wanted to start first is with this. The very first page of this talks about the ESPN's NBA package. Now, ESPN spent $12.6 billion on the broadcast rights for the NBA through 2025. Now,
right. That's 9 years.
Yeah, and so it works out to multiple billions.
1.4 billion. I got the spreadsheet from the website here. Yeah, so 1.4 billion for that.
1.4.
Yeah, that seems like a lot of money for the NBA to me.
Well, it is a lot of money for the NBA, and we have to remember here that how does ESPN make money? They make money through subscriber fees and advertisements.
Right.
And so if ESPN is spending $1 billion on the NBA, 1.4 billion, how are they recouping that money? And the answer probably sounds like they probably aren't recouping the money. But the point here of this article, and we're going to go over some of the numbers here in a minute. The point of the article here is that they've spent a huge amount of money on a whole bunch of sports leagues, broadcast rights, and the idea is they want to build their brand up, almost irrespective of cost, build the brand up into the preeminent sports outlet. And they've successfully done that, but they spent a lot of money in there. Now they're losing people doing it. So what do you all think about the model that ESPN has set up here?
I don't think it's sustainable. And you and I, Steve, we've talked about this a lot on our other show. We've talked about it just offline a lot because you know how fascinated I was about the whole ESPN situation.
Right.
Being somebody who grew up wanting to work in television and realizing that it wasn't sustainable even when I got out of college in 2005. And I have friends who've worked in sports broadcasts through them I know people who've worked at ESPN, and I see it and I feel terrible for the employees, especially your run-of-the-mill guys. But this is kind of something that the day the internet was invented, cable was going to go this way. It's slow downward spiral in my mind.
Well, I think a lot of and we talked about this on a previous show. There are a lot of people that are sort of checking out of these cable packages when there are other ways and other outlets that you can get ESPN. But what I found very interesting about the article was the trend of ESPN in this relationship with Disney and how their stocks dropped probably about 15 years ago, and now they're seemingly rebounding. But one of the other thing that I find interesting is that the NBA, maybe they're starting to get a little return because the NBA ratings are up, where at one point they were down. So maybe they are starting to recoup some of that money.
Oh, I mean, possibly they are, but they just laid off 200, on air 200 people a couple months ago, including a bunch of high price on air talent. Mm-hmm. And just in the case of the NBA, for example, they're paying $1.4 billion. They're televising what, maybe 2 or 3 games a week at most.
Yeah,
realistically speaking. And so the question really becomes, in terms of a profit and loss situation, is the NBA game in a position to get high enough ratings to increase the ad revenue over alternative programming? Or, in the alternative, is it building the goodwill of the ESPN brand name to make up the difference in the lost profits from the ad revenue?
I think the NBA, yeah. I think the NBA, it could. I mean, I think you have something there, Steve. It could be when you say, can the NBA sustain that, and is it a good enough product? One of the consequences that we didn't think of about the formation of these super teams is that people are tuning in a little bit more, particularly if you look at the NBA Finals ratings. I think it was like the highest rated finals in a number of years. So maybe people are tuning in to see Kevin Durant, the Golden State Warriors, with a dynasty. So maybe people are tuning in.
See, the sad thing is, though, is that this is just the tip of the iceberg here for this. They're paying $15.2 billion for the NFL. They're paying $5.6 billion for Major League Baseball. $7.3 billion. No. That was total. The per year for the NFL was $1.9 billion.
Oh, okay.
And then
Sorry.
Major League Baseball was $700 million a year. And just to put it into perspective, if anybody, I'm not trying to be sexist here when I say this, but if anybody wonders really where the WNBA's place is in the sports world, I mean, I'm happy that there's a women's professional basketball league. God bless you if you can make money at it, and they deserve to have a place to play. Not my point. But, okay, the NBA has a $12.6 million package, $1.4 billion a year. The entirety of the WNBA package is $225 million through 2025. And so they're paying comparative chump change, the entire package is much less, 6 times less than what the NBA is paying in a year.
Yeah.
So that's where the WNBA fits. But I'm wondering about, I think you hit it on the head, Alex, because it seems to me it's not sustainable. Yes, you want to build up and have ESPN be the preeminent sports media platform to include their app and all the online stuff. But at some point, they got to stop spending money.
Right.
At some point, they have to. They just can't keep it up.
Well, all right. So I looked at that spreadsheet that they give you, and I ballpark that it looks like it's right around $5.5 billion a year is what they're paying out in all these things. I don't know if there's enough ad revenue in their entire network to even cover half that. I mean, do you know how much ad revenue you need to get to that $5.5 billion marker?
Oh, I totally agree, but you got to remember the other half of the ESPN business model is the subscriber fees from cable.
Right, which I believe, and I don't know if you know this off the top of your head, I think it's something like $5 a cable provider?
Well, no, the article actually cites it and says it's up to this year. It's up to almost $8 a subscriber per month.
So $8, and there's 100 million or so subscribers. So that's just under $1 billion. Let's say that they're getting from the subscribers.
Well, that's $8 a month too, and so that's
a month.
It's going to go more, yeah.
Okay,
but the other part of this article is it's not really the ad revenue that they're focused on in this piece. The issue is the loss of subscribers has translated into a loss of profits, which has in turn translated into the layoffs.
Right.
Now, it seems to me that it's a little bit of a phony construct to talk about the ESPN loss of subscribers when on every cable service there is, ESPN is not a separate pay channel.
It's a base channel.
It's a base channel. And so, I almost think it's a tad bit unfair for ESPN to be tagged with, oh yeah, they're hemorrhaging subscribers when it's probably just cable TV in general.
Yeah. I don't think anyone really puts that on ESPN that the cable subscribers are leaving. I think, in fact, most people would argue that ESPN is one of those few reasons people stay on cable, as long as they do. People want live sports. That's the only reason to have cable anymore is you want that live sports interaction. But, I mean, that's going away. I've cut the cord and I haven't had a problem, really, other than the fact that I can't watch the frickin' Nationals because Masson's a piece of shit. But other than that, I can watch all my local teams play at this point without cable.
But everybody's not as tech savvy as you.
No, of course not. I'm in my early 30s. I'm not someone in their 60s or 70s who's never going to do it.
Yeah.
Well, Rich, do you have cable? I mean,
I do, and I have a bundle, and I pay I think my ESPN is about close to $7.50 a month.
So you actually know what it costs?
Yes, because I have a breakdown that looks at all the different things that I'm paying for.
For a second there, I thought you were going to say your cable was $7.50 a month.
Oh no!
If it was, I want your cable.
My cable's expensive, but it's also one of those things where if you didn't have it, you feel like you might miss it, and they may be counting on that. Like you curse it sometimes, but like gosh darn, it's so expensive. But at the same time, it's like I don't feel like live streaming Monday Night Football. I just want to sit with my remote in my hand and go old school.
Sure.
I mean, you and I, Rich, are you and I are a little older than Alex, and we're set in our ways. And Alex is,
I just got Sling, and it's $40, and it gives me all the ESPN.
But here's my real question for you guys on this. Yes, they're spending a lot of money. Yes, they've had a bunch of layoffs, to offset the cost.
Mm-hmm.
But is ESPN losing prominence in the sports world as the preeminent sports channel? Because to me, the answer is no. They have more competition now. They have Fox Sports 1, which does have a Major League Baseball postseason package now, because it took me a while to find what sport, FS1 even was. And then NBC has their channel now. To me, ESPN, in terms of prestige, is where it always was.
I think if you're looking for national media, yeah, absolutely, they're still going to be your one seed. But for me personally, if I want to watch sports news, I tend to go to Comcast, and because every region seems to have their local Comcast Mid-Atlantic, Comcast Philadelphia. I don't remember how many cities they're in, but I think they're in at least the top 10 markets at this point, maybe top 15.
Right.
And,
but here's I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, I would much rather go there because I'm going to get my Redskins stuff and all my local sports teams first. And, how often do you watch ESPN and they'll never once talk about any team you really care about?
Right. Well, the one thing that's interesting and that we haven't talked about is that ESPN allows college kids and their parents to access some of their sporting events. So, whereas there was a time when we may not be able to see, Arkansas Central State versus, Middle Buffalo Tech on, at 3 a.m. Mm-hmm. So, that's another aspect of it. There's some hardcore, not many, but there's some hardcore fans that actually like that kind of stuff. And if you're talking also about SEC, and they have SEC Network, and I'm not sure the affiliations. I know the list was there. But if you're talking about some of those premier football conferences, there are actually people that care more about college football than pro football.
Oh, I think that's a huge chunk. of the
Yeah,
population.
and ESPN's contract with the Southeastern Conference is a total value of $6 billion. So, I mean, they have a very big presence on it. The other part of this I thought was interesting is that everybody needs to remember ESPN is owned by Disney.
Right.
And Disney also owns ABC, and Disney has licensed out streaming shows to Hulu and Sling and
Yep.
all these things for some of the Disney shows where they can for 99 you can 99 cents get one of the Disney shows or one of the ABC shows. That doesn't really work in the sports world because so much of it is live. Even Sports Center, nobody's going to watch a day old Sports Center because it's pointless.
No.
And so ESPN has actually been hurt by that model because they can't do it. And it appears as though from this article that Disney kind of did this without even bothering to tell ESPN they were going to do it, and have basically ignored the effect of that arrangement on ESPN.
Well, it's interesting that you say no one will watch a day old Sports Center. I think there's a model for our old content that they're just not exploiting right now, and I kind of Steve probably will have no idea what I'm talking about because it's a show he probably doesn't like. The Daily Show, they're famous for putting out clips of stories, and they'll just do a clip of that one story, and that thing will get recycled on the internet for months at a time. I think that's a model ESPN could take.
I think the Daily Show is going to move to Moscow and be broadcast on communist television. That's what I think.
Well, that communist television's broadcast from here. It's called RT. It had, what's his name? Adam Kokesh, an old friend of mine, libertarian dude.
You're missing my point, Alex.
Yeah, I know.
It's a bunch of liberal commies. That's my point.
Yeah, that's called the media. We're all liberal commies.
Yeah, it is. Generally,
it's great. We have awesome parties. Everyone makes sure they get drunk.
Yeah.
It's good. It's fun.
I don't even drink.
But back to your point about the NBA. And I think that for a long time the NBA was in trouble. They had the image, the quote unquote thug image, and the Iverson. They tried to make players wear suits, and it seemed to evolve with players want to wear suits and crazy clown outfits anyway now. But I think the NBA. I don't know if we're giving the NBA and Commissioner Silver as much credit as I think they deserve for really bringing the NBA back around, and it's more popular. I won't say it's more popular than ever, but it's very popular now. And I think that maybe ESPN could be hitching his wagon to that.
Well,
hey, Rich, this is totally off topic. Do you get offended when people are referred to as thugs? When you see like these black athletes are referred to as thugs, And the reason I ask that is that there was an article on I forget what platform talking about LeBron James's outside business interests.
Yes.
He bought Blaze Pizza, and they said LeBron is hustling pizza.
Yeah.
And so you see the word hustle and you see the word thug associated with these NBA players who are 90% black.
Yeah.
And to me, as Joe Average white guy, it just rolls off. I don't really care, But I don't know how that affects you.
Yeah, I think the term, and I've had this discussion many times in some of my social circles. Yes, I am offended by it. I don't offend easy, but it's an offensive term because there are many people that think it's code for another word. So you can't use that other word anymore. So people substitute that with thugs, and people you don't hear any other race of people defined as thugs. The word thug is generally a new reference, a new derogatory term for African American that people, may think are up to no good, or, a whole other issue, people protesting and things like that. So thugs is a term that people have substituted for other slurs.
It's interesting because it's not something that has ever crossed my mind until I saw it raised.
I mean, listen to when you listen to people say it, listen to the veracity sometimes in which they say it, and the venom that they use when they say, and the emphasis on the word. It's kind of fascinating to me. Again, I don't offend easy, but that is a very common conversation in my social circle.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
And it relates to sports and sports media because you see this in the media.
Yeah.
It's not just like a bunch of yahoos on Twitter saying this. Yeah. You see this, again, what stuck in my head was, LeBron James is hustling pizza.
Right.
You know, and now LeBron James, black man, obviously, he's got a huge variety of business interests. First of all, you know, LeBron he's producing network television shows and all these things,
Right.
and I didn't have a problem with it, but you know, clearly, I think some African Americans did, and it was a major media outlet that put that out. I forget who it was. A major media outlet put that out.
What I don't understand about a story like that is why you would want to try and have a negative connotation when it's pizza, because everyone loves pizza.
Honestly, I don't think they were trying to have a negative connotation. I think they just threw it out there and didn't realize.
Okay.
Yeah.
I got you.
Yeah, that's just my opinion. I didn't mean to get so totally off track of that, but I thought that was good. Unless anybody else has anything more on ESPN, you know, something else that has been raised recently within the sports business world is questions concerning guaranteed contracts for NFL players. Now, you know, we've just been through, you know, Kirk Cousins' hell here in Washington, D.C. For those of you who are listening, who are Redskins fans, you know, is he going to get a long-term contract? Is he not? What's his guaranteed money? Blah, blah, blah. The fact of the matter is that most NFL contracts have zero guaranteed dollars. Most NBA contracts are almost all guaranteed, and just about every Major League Baseball contract is guaranteed. So the question of the day and the question out there is, should the NBA players push for 100% guaranteed contracts? And if they push for that, is there a way that the NFL owners can or will do it?
We're talking about the NFL? You said not the...
Yeah.
I think you said NBA first.
Well, I meant, should the NFL players out there now with the CBA coming up here in 2021, should this be a point of emphasis? Should an attempt to get fully guaranteed contracts be a point of emphasis with the NFL Players Association?
I don't know about a fully guaranteed. I think they should be pushing for some kind of minimum, like maybe minimum 50% guarantee on all contracts kind of deal. I could see something like that as at least maybe they start with saying all of it, but I mean, we all know the nature of the sport with the high risk of injury. That's always going to be tough to make the owners buy into that. So I could see some kind of mandatory minimum of like half the contract being guaranteed being a reasonable solution. The thing that I think NFL players who are really pushing for this don't realize, a lot of you guys are going to get a guarantee for like $500,000, $250,000. Like there's a substantial amount of the NFL roster that's going to lose salary off of that, because you're going to want to pay the superstars and they're going to be demanding the big money, and that salary cap's still going to be that salary cap. And you got 53 other guys, or not 53, but let's say 45 other guys who still need to get paid after the top guys.
You know, to that, I think that one of the things that players need to be careful of is, I think that if you have fully guaranteed contracts, I think that's going to affect free agency, particularly if you have teams with a lot of dead cap space. Yeah. Let's say you've got a team that gets bit by the end. Football is a very violent, violent sport, and I think players are on the wrong path when they're trying to compare the NBA to the NFL and the MLB. Apples and oranges, totally different sports, and it could potentially affect free agency in that if I own a team and I've got a number of players who are injured and I have to pay a guaranteed contract, I have a ton of dead money on the books. Therefore, I can't sign free agents, or maybe I can't build my team unless there is a softer cap.
Right.
You know. So I don't know.
That would be the only other idea I'd say they might need to kick around is if a guy gets injured, maybe he's no longer counted against your cap, because that's the only way I could see it being feasible.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay, let's talk about this a little bit, because I have 2 big points. Number one, part of the reason why this is very infeasible is that a hallmark of NFL roster building since the dawn of time has been competition and training camp.
Sure.
You know, in years past, you could bring a whole lot more people than they can now, but now the off-season rosters are 90. Right now, the Washington Redskins have 90 people signed to the roster.
Right.
It's going to be whittled down to 53 plus 10 more on the practice squad. how on earth do you have competition in training camp if you have 90 contracts with any guaranteed money?
Sure.
Now, if you look at how the NBA builds their teams, the NBA has 15 roster spots per team, and they may bring like 18 to camp. And the last 3 guys generally are non-guaranteed contracts. And if one of these undrafted free agents happens to beat out, the 14th guy on the bench, so be it. Then he plays. But it's
and they have
very
a D-League
rare
that they can move people to. Don't forget about that.
Yeah, right. And a lot of those guys who are the back end, the 3 guys in camp with the non-game guaranteed contracts just go to the D-League. And so it's a whole different model. And Major League Baseball has no competition whatsoever basically in camp because anybody they bring, they will bring up 40 or 50 guys from the minor leagues and have sort of a combined spring training camp. But by and large, the 25-man roster is set, and there's basically no competition. That you have the odd pitcher who will beat somebody out every once in a while.
Right.
So that's number one. It's a completely different method of roster building. But you mentioned the soft salary cap, Alex. People need to understand an important thing about the salary cap. The salary cap is not there to protect the players. It's there to protect the owners from themselves. Okay? The salary cap was instituted because the owners wanted an excuse to keep player costs down. Okay? And so they institute a salary cap and say, we can only spend this much money. And they say it's for competition reasons because you don't want like a rich team like the Redskins to outspend, a poor team, out there.
The
Bengals. There you go.
Everything that was good about the NFL in the 80s, you mean?
Yeah. But that's not really. See, that's just what the owners will tell you.
Sure.
The truth of the matter is, what the real purpose of the salary cap is to give the owners an excuse to keep costs down. It's not about competition at all. It's about money. It's about profit margin. And so, for that reason, the owners don't really. If you gave them truth serum, the owners don't really want a soft cap because they don't want to have to spend enough money. And if you have like the NBA soft cap, then you got to, give, I don't know, LeBron James or Steph Curry can just drive a Mack truck through the cap, because of bird rights and everything else. The NFL doesn't want to do that, and so that's the reason why there's no soft cap. And so for that reason, I think it's tough to ask them to give guaranteed contracts like that for those 2 reasons. How do you build a roster? And how do you do that if there's no salary cap relief?
Sure.
Yeah, I think the one thing, and most people are pro player, and very few people are pro management, maybe except for those people in management. But I think that there are many different sides and many different angles to it. Let me give you this example. I was listening to one of the local radio shows, and they were basically patting Kirk Cousins on the back and his agent Mike McCartney for quote unquote revolutionizing the use of the franchise tag. And I said, well, I think we need to pump our brakes a little bit because it has worked for Kirk Cousins because Kirk Cousins didn't get injured. And we have to remember football is a very violent game. And Kirk Cousins already has $44 million. Is going to make $44 million.
Half that because of taxes and his agent.
Okay. Well, let's take it.
Say 44 gross.
Right,
Yes.
but that's not. I'm not sure if that's a precedent that you want to set because everybody's not going to have that franchise tag at that particular number.
Sure.
So I think we need to be careful before we say, Kirk and his agent have revolutionized the franchise tag. It's still a risk, and other players may not be able to take. But all of that tied into the whole salary cap issue.
I mean, the owners would do it if you just limit off-season rosters to 53. That would give them more of an incentive to guarantee some money because those are your 53 guys, period. But that takes away the competition and it takes away guys like I don't know Fish Smithson, for example. Redskin. We have a number of people out there who listen to us who seem to be fascinated with Fish Smithson.
Yeah.
God
is
bless
it just
you.
the name? It's got to be just the name, right?
No. There's no. We talked about this on the show. I mean, he's got some a physical profile that indicates he can maybe play, and people who have watched film who contact us say he's like our best safety. But point is, Fish Smithson wouldn't have a job if there were guaranteed contracts.
Exactly.
Sure.
Because they just wouldn't have room for him.
Right.
And the other point I wanted to make here is that when people talk about having this a part of the collective bargaining negotiations, remember this. There's no right to a guaranteed contract in the NBA or MLB collective bargaining agreements. Neither document says contracts have to be guaranteed. It's something that management and ownership in basketball and baseball have just done over the years. In some cases, they don't. Like Pau Gasol just signed a 3-year extension with the Spurs. Well, it's not fully guaranteed for the third year because he's like 100 years old at this point, in basketball years. So they don't. Not everybody has a guaranteed contract. Even vets don't have it.
Let me just ask a quick clarifying question before you jump in, Alex. So do you all think that players, when they say we want guaranteed contracts, or do you think they're asking for guaranteed contracts with injury too? Is that what? Because I'm not. That doesn't. That doesn't make any sense to me.
Well, I think they are.
Yeah. I think
remember
that's the big reason they're asking for it, really.
Okay.
Yeah, and of course you can't cut a guy who's injured. First of all,
right?
In football, but I think so I'm not sure that really has a huge effect on it. I think that they're looking for, a guaranteed salary for a year, even in the event of being cut, and that's just not equitable. The owners just aren't going to do it. The salary cap doesn't allow it. I told you that the NFL doesn't really want to change the salary cap because it's really protecting the owners and themselves. And so I don't think for that reason, the NFL is really set up for it. Now, you might have guys like Kirk or like Tom Brady. If Tom Brady went to the Patriots and said, guarantee my contract or else I'm leaving. Well, they may do it. For him. But if you have, I don't know, the Rob Kellys of the world, if Rob Kelly went to the Redskins and said, guarantee my contract or I'm going to leave, they'd say, bye.
Right.
Right.
Samaj P. Ryan.
Yeah, exactly.
But who? Go ahead, Alice.
The only real cases I could see where an owner would be for doing it would be if somebody was in that Tom Brady situation, like you said. But they'd also kind of have to lowball the amount, I'd feel like, for the guarantee to be worth it for the owners. It'd have to be team friendly to begin with. Yeah. Like if Kirk had come and said, "Give me $12 million a year, all guaranteed for 5 years," wouldn't you jump at that?
Maybe not. Because I don't know if you would want to guarantee any money in year 5.
Right. So what if I'm the Minnesota Vikings and Teddy Bridgewater has a 5-year fully guaranteed contract and he has that injury? Then
that's the risk.
I mean, I know that's a whole, that's like the far end of the spectrum, but I mean, that's a possibility.
Well, and also, by the way, let's just let it be said that Bridgewater was a first-round pick, was he not?
Yeah, I believe so.
Yes, he was.
First-round picks are fully guaranteed have fully guaranteed contracts. They're actually the only players that do have 4-year fully guaranteed contracts. So Bridgewater is in that situation, or the Vikings are in that situation with Bridgewater. Right.
Luckily, he was towards the end of that contract for them.
Yeah, he is. But your point is valid, though. Generally, I mean, a quarterback has this, bad injury. I think that long-term contracts would be totally out the window. Yeah, there's no way an NFL owner would guarantee 5 years to anybody. Even Tom. I don't care if it's George Blanda, Johnny Unitas, Tom Brady. Sure. Nobody would do that. But I think the real bigger issue again is roster building, salary cap.
Right.
That's the reason why I think it won't work in the NFL as compared to some of these other leagues.
And I think another thing that these NFL players are getting in, the reason they get excited by it is they see these super deals that John Wall just signed for almost $200 million.
Yeah.
Something like that. I think these
James
NFL
Harden
guys
signed a big deal.
Yeah, these NFL guys who get really into it and get vocal about it, they're always thinking it's going to be, we're going to get guaranteed money and we're going to get that kind of money. And I think they need to realize your sport's not that. If you wanted that kind of money, maybe you should have played a different sport because you're on a 53-man roster with a high rate of injury. It's just never going to happen.
And Alex, you make a good point in that we have to remember these are some of these guys. Their peers. These are their peers. I mean, they play a different sport, but they hang in the same circles. So when I see your check and I see my game check and I see that you have generational wealth even more than even football, then it's like, wait a minute, maybe I should have played. Maybe I played the wrong sport. I just think that it's a great argument to have. I think a better angle, and I don't know this. Maybe this could be something we can look into in another show. I think a better angle is, what does the NFL do to take care of NFL players after football? Are there better deals? Is there better benefits? Do they have a better pension? I think that, to me, is where the fight is, rather than all your money up front.
Let me give everybody an example of the true disparity. Timothy Mozgov, who the Lakers signed last year, who they just traded away this offseason in a massive, they had to dump D'Angelo Russell to get rid of Timothy Mozgov. He signed a 4-year, $64 million contract. Average salary, $16 million. Fully 100% guaranteed. Now, we were just talking about Kirk Cousins. And now Timothy Mozgov, for those of you who aren't basketball fans, Rich, you know this. Timothy Mozgov sucks, okay? He's not a good basketball player. God bless him. He's better than me. But, in terms of the NBA, he's not a good basketball player. Now, we were just talking about the Kirk Cousins guarantees this past week, where Cousins was going to be guaranteed at signing $53 million. Well, he's I think inarguably a top 15 quarterback, maybe top 10 quarterback at the most important position on the field. Timothy Mozgov is a scrub who the Lakers begged to get rid of. He has $64 million guaranteed.
Yeah.
So it's such a wide disparity.
Yep.
Here, and that's why there's a problem with it. And I think that you're right, Rich, when you said like the public generally is on the player side. Because I think it's it's easy to be mad at billionaires.
Sure.
But you see the athlete, until you are one, and that's of course why they are billionaires.
Right.
Yeah.
But I think it's interesting that the NFL actually is the most profitable sports league by far. Well, part of the reason is they haven't let their player costs get so out of whack. That is the reason why they are profitable.
Yeah.
And the NFL owners, among any others, are desperate to protect their profit margin. They locked the players out back in 2011 for the stated public reason of increasing their profit margin. Mm-hmm. Remember that. And you expect NFL owners to guarantee contracts? There's no way they're going to do it. There's no way any owner is going to do that for any player.
Now,
ever.
I do agree with you, but I do also think that in the end there is some kind of happy medium they can find where it'll be a win for the players, and the owners will still be able to keep their profit margins. And the reason I think they need to realize that it's in their best interest to do that is because I do think that long term you are going to see elite athletic talent go to these other sports for the bigger money. I don't know if everyone will be able to. Obviously, you're not going to have a Deshaun Jackson going to the NBA because he's 5'11". But, I think you will see, at least at some level, some of these elite guys. Great quarterbacks can usually be pretty good pitchers in the NBA or in the Major League Baseball.
Tom Brady got drafted into Major League Baseball, as did Russell Wilson.
Yeah. And there was there's a whole host of, if you look through history, guys who were quarterbacks and also were really good pitchers.
John Elway.
Yeah.
Matthew Stafford.
Yep.
Yeah. But the NFL, the NBA though, let's be real. How many times have we heard coaches say, everybody's not going to make the NFL, but there are people that aspire to. But you're talking about 15 spots, and how many NBA teams are there? You're talking 15, 30 NBA teams, 15 spots. There are not a lot of millionaire jobs, and everybody thinks they're going to make the NBA and the NFL. You've got a bigger roster, so there might be a better chance. But here's the other thing. As small as quote-unquote comparatively NFL money is, it's a lot more than many of us would make. Look at the practice squad salary. Practice squad players make $80,000 a week?
No, I think
no, not a week. They'll make $150 a year.
Yeah.
They're making a good salary.
Okay,
I'm sorry,
they're making a salary that puts them in the 99th percentile.
I think it's like $6,000 a week or something like that.
They're making about between $100,000 and $150,000 a year.
Yeah.
I take that.
Yeah, I think most people
it's good
would.
money.
You know,
It's good money.
you know.
Unless you're living in like one of those 5 metropolises where $100,000 isn't that much money anymore.
Right, like DC is like DC is turning into.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, the DC's practice squatters are living on the poverty line,
Yeah,
possibly.
yeah.
But, that's
Yeah.
another matter. Look, it's an interesting topic. I wanted to bring it up because I've seen a lot of people talking about it. A lot of the people that listen to us, in out there on the social media and
Sure.
even on the major networks, are talking about this. I just think that it's extremely unlikely because of the way the NFL is set up that this is ever going to happen. It's a nice thought, but I think it would fundamentally change the way the NFL builds their teams. They would need a salary cap change, and frankly, the NFL owners just don't have an incentive to do it because they like their money,
Yeah.
and they're making it now.
I think you would almost even need to do the whole developmental league thing just to kind of balance out how you're doing
Yeah.
your development.
Yeah.
Well,
there's been another NFL player that's in the news. O.J. Simpson. Now, O.J. Simpson, as we all know, has been in prison for the past 9 years, and he had that little snafu in 1994 where his ex-wife died, and he was charged, with double murder.
Right.
Perhaps you've heard about it.
I vaguely remember something.
Vaguely remember it. I know Rich heard it, lived through it.
Yeah, I lived through it. Yeah.
Well, I was
O.J.
11.
Simpson-
I watched it. Like, I don't know why my parents would let me watch that, but they did.
Yeah.
The reason why I'm bringing O.J. Simpson up on this show is that he's going to get paroled in October, and I'm wondering. We talk, not when Alice has been here, but we've talked a lot on this show about sports memorabilia, Rich.
Yeah.
And I'm wondering if O.J. Simpson has a career in sports memorabilia when he gets out. Can this guy actually make money selling autographs and doing appearances at card shows and all that stuff? Or is he just too much of a pariah?
Just like any other person that we think are pariahs, there's always some people that are ride or die, and they're going to follow them either way.
Mm-hmm.
There will be people that will line up for O.J. Simpson's autograph. There will be people that will curse him and things like that. But I think there is a market. I mean, look at the television show, for God's sakes. It won an Emmy, a couple of Emmys.
The O.J.
Yeah.
Simpson Made in America show on
it won a couple of Emmys, and people like to pontificate about O.J. but there's a ton of people that have made money off of this, and there is a market for for O.J. Simpson to make money. So
Can he make
Alice?
money? Yeah. I'm not going to be the person buying them. And, I buy quite a bit of, sports memorabilia just in general. But, one, he wasn't a Redskin, so I wouldn't do it. But, yeah, I agree with you. I think at some level, there's always going to be people who want to buy it. But I just don't see him. I don't think he'll be on The Apprentice or anything. I don't think he'll be doing reality TV. I think
is he going to do reality TV? I mean, he would be a fool to do that.
Right. I just think he might sign some stuff here and there, but I don't necessarily. I mean, you're not going to have him at one of these big conventions, are you?
Well, I don't know. That's why I brought up the question. Because you have all sorts of people appearing at these conventions, and there's probably a market for it. Now, the thing with OJ, of course, is he owes $30-something million to the Goldman family,
right,
as a result of his judgment in the civil wrongful death suit. So any money he makes is, can be garnished, from him. So whether or not he wants to do it is another matter.
Mm-hmm.
I was just fascinated by the idea of whether or not there's a market for O.J. Simpson stuff, because I'd be willing to bet that Charles Manson memorabilia would probably have a market. A murderer and all that, a creepy, guy, horrible human being.
Sure.
I bet you people would probably pay for.
I mean,
that.
people
So
buy Nazi
imagine,
memorabilia too. But
yeah, and they killed 6 million Jews and tried to destroy the world. So
Yeah.
I have to think that O.J. Simpson, if he wants to make money selling memorabilia, he probably can.
Well, I mean, let's put it this way though. What did he go to jail for? Stealing memorabilia back from somebody, supposedly.
Well, it was actually armed robbery, is what he went to jail for.
Well, but it was. What was he trying to take? It was his own memorabilia that this guy had, right?
Yes.
Yes. So apparently, there's enough of a market for him to pull a gun on somebody. You know.
I mean, I think that OJ. Here's the part that tugs at me is I believe that he killed those. I believe that he killed Ron Goldman and Nicole Brown Simpson. I believe that. But he was such a great football player.
The best I've ever seen.
I mean, he was, and speaking of ESPN, they show these, highlights, NFL Network, and
Sure.
There's footage. There's, when you watch him play, it's like, damn, he was just such a great football player. Now, if I were in a mall or I was somewhere and I saw him sitting at a table, I would probably be in awe, but I would not ask him for his autograph. But I'm sure that there are people that are, because he was such a great football player. And don't forget, he went to USC. And there are a lot of people, I mean, you can't say anything bad about look at Joe Paterno. I mean, perfect example. I mean, there are people that will always revere him no matter what happened. So if there's a market for him, an excuse for him, then OJ can make money.
That's probably true. You're probably right. And I just say OJ Simpson is the best running back I've ever seen of any generation. I was way too young for Jim Brown. I caught the very tail end of the O.J. Simpson era, and seen a lot of clips because when I was a little kid, he was big. Better than any running back I've ever seen on any team in any era, O.J. Simpson.
And you got to know how. And the other thing about it is he was so small. He was a small guy. I mean, maybe compared
by NFL running
backs. By NFL running backs.
6 foot.
But
6 foot, about 220.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I thought it was fascinating. We'll see come October whether or not he's going to be in the public eye, whether he's going to be trying to sell his autograph, or whether he's just going to be smart and go live with his son or daughter and disappear and never be seen again. That's sure as hell what I would do if I were him.
By the way, Steve, we're going to have that argument one day. O.J. Simpson or Earl Campbell. Earl Campbell's one of my favorites of all time, but we'll have that argument.
That's a good. We'll have to do that another show because I'm gonna stick with my Simpson thing just based on football alone.
Right.
Well, guys, I'd like to thank you for joining me for another show. Rich and I especially like to thank Alex for filling in. Please check us out on Twitter. We are at the Hogsty. And we're on Facebook. Alex, we're on Facebook still, right? Are we on Facebook?
Yeah, we're still on Facebook. I try and post whenever we have a new show.
Okay, so we at least have that much, and we're on Instagram. The Instagram's going to start picking up here. Come training camp, hopefully.
That's
we're on
the plan.
Instagram. Yeah, and by the way, make one quick announcement. Please go out and try to go see Pete Taylor at training camp, who's Sean Taylor's father. He's going to be appearing at training camp on the 5th and 6th of August. So go check him out. He's signing books there. But that'll do it for the show, guys, unless you have anything else to wrap up with.
Nope.
No, great show, gents. Thanks.
All right. Thanks very much, and we'll see you in 2 weeks.